Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Now today's first story comes from a throwaway account who says, "My boyfriend broke up with me on Valentine's Day because I ate too much at dinner. I, 27 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 26 male, since last summer. About 7 months now. Has been my happiest relationship ever so far, as he is smart, kind, funny, a good listener, bedroom stuff is excellent, etc. We don't live together yet, but we spend about 3 to 4 nights a week together. I was so looking forward to our first Valentine's Day together. I made us reservations for an early dinner at our favorite steakhouse, and the plan was to come back to my place after that to watch a movie and have dessert. I got us a little heart-shaped chocolate cake and dessert. Anyway, I am kind of a string bean, 5'9", and it's a struggle to keep my weight at least 125 pounds, the minimum for my height to not be underweight. There is nothing medically wrong with me, just have a really fast metabolism and have to be careful to eat enough. Boyfriend is also very slim, 6 foot and about 145 pounds, but doesn't have a huge appetite. So it's always been a bit of a joke that I need to eat more, and more frequently than he does, but until our Valentine's Day date, I didn't really think it was an issue. He shows up looking amazing, gives me lovely flowers and a really sweet card. I give him a gift I know he really wanted, an Apple Watch, and we head out to the restaurant. He's a full-time grad student and I work, so I don't expect expensive gifts. Also, I'm paying for dinner due to income differences, which I do not mind at all. When we get there, I dive in to the bread basket and order a salad, surf and turf, more fillet and lobster tail, and a couple of sides to share, sauteed spinach and mashed potatoes, and he gets a small cup of soup and grilled salmon. Pretty standard steakhouse stuff. Again, I am paying and it's definitely a treat meal, but not extremely unhealthy or anything. I definitely relish my meal and finish everything except some of the sides. He's a bit more than half of his salmon. Most of the way through the meal, he starts looking annoyed and distant, but won't tell me what's wrong. We get the check, don't get dessert as we have it at my place, and as we're pulling up to my apartment, he says he is tired and just wants to go home. Says no, he doesn't want to come in for cake or to sleep at my place. He wants to go home. In the moment, of course, I am disappointed because it's Valentine's Day and our first one at that. But I tell him I'm sorry and hope he feels better. I try to give him a kiss goodnight, but he turns his head and tenses up. This morning, he texts me to say he wasn't actually sick. He was embarrassed by how much I ate and turned off. And I made a pig of myself and it's really unattractive. Now, I do not shovel my food in and I have impeccable table manners, so it's not that. It's definitely just the volume of food. I try calling him, but he won't pick up. Texts me back saying he isn't up to talking and he needs some time to think. A couple of hours ago, he texts me again saying he's thought about it and he wants to break up. That my eating has upset him for a while and he was trying to see if he could get over it, but he can't. I am so distraught and confused. Just yesterday before dinner, he was telling me how much he loved me and how lucky he was. And of course feel horrible about myself for being disgusting, even though if I eat much less I will lose weight and get sick. I guess I just have to accept that it's over, but hope someone might have some advice. Did I do something wrong here, or is there a way I can fix it? And my first thought is, why would you want to fix this? Why would you want to be with someone like that? He really doesn't sound like a very pleasant person at all, and some of the things he said to you, that you made a pig of yourself and it's really unattractive, and general stuff like that is potentially a really harmful thing to say to someone. Cut that shitty negativity out of your life. You go to the restaurants and you enjoy yourself, and if I was you, and I hope you have done, get that watch back. But Purple Monkey says he doesn't sound like a very nice person. Did he still take the Apple Watch? And Opie says yes, he took it with him. Of course he fucking did. After we exchanged gifts before dinner and didn't offer to return it. It's fine, it was a gift. I don't need it as I already have one. But still sort of cruddy to break up with me right after. It was the newest one, Series 7 with a fancier stainless case. Cost $800. Night Owl Eye says in quotes, "Did I do something wrong here, or is there a way I can fix it?" Opie says you did absolutely nothing wrong. One big meal and he leaves you. Someone who really cares about you and sees a future with you would never ever do that. Please do not try to fix it. OP says thanks. He says he has been upset for a while about me stuffing my face. But again, I don't know what I could really do differently given that I need to eat a lot for my health. Z-Man Dude says unless there were other problems with the relationship, then it sounds like the trash took itself out. OP says I guess I have to think of it that way. I really liked/loved him though. There wasn't any toxic stuff, nothing you could really call arguments, and when we disagreed about something occasionally, we'd be able to talk it out respectfully. It's just weird because usually when someone suddenly acts like an arsehole, there have been red flags and I can't see where I missed them. And one more from Milfew says, it is my opinion, whatever his underlying issue is, it has nothing to do with you. This emotion he speaks of is not created or triggered by anything you have done. It's too deep or an excuse. Don't worry about what he thinks of your eating habits. If you enjoy 14 pounds of pulled pork with whole wheat bread, you do you and enjoy it. In a way, you're lucky that you're not so deep with this guy that he can body shame you for the rest of your life. If you do want 9 orange Tic Tacs with a side of Snickers, you go ahead and enjoy it, every bite. Don't even respond anymore. OP responds saying thank you. Obviously, we are done. Dude is going to have issues finding a decent life partner if he gets mad about a girl eating a hearty meal on a special occasion. Then OP updates the post, which says first, thank you to those who were supportive in validating that his reaction to my eating a hearty but normal steakhouse meal was way over the top. Your kindness made me feel a lot better about getting dumped and realizing I likely dodged a huge bullet. Sorry I didn't respond to everyone. I went to bed when there are only a few dozen responses, but when I woke up the next morning, the post was already deleted. Anyway, I realized I couldn't just block my ex because he had left a bunch of stuff at my place. Several outfits worth of clothes, assorted toiletries, and electronic chargers. So I did text him the next day saying I understood, and did he want to come get his stuff or should I bring it to him? I also asked if he was planning to return the watch given how things went, and he didn't answer that but said he would stop by in a couple of hours. When he arrived, I gave him all his things, neatly packed, and saw he was wearing the watch. He said he was keeping it because it was a gift. I told him I thought that was pretty crummy of him, but ultimately I know he is legally in the right. I'd actually checked with a lawyer friend of mine, because it had been a gift freely given, and for something of a value of less than $1,000, that doesn't have any sentimental value, it just isn't worth fighting over. He went on to tell me that he was sorry he went off me, that he wanted to break up for a while because he had started seeing someone else in his grad school program. We did not have an open relationship and thought it would be easier if I just thought he was a big jerk for negging me about my eating. And he had double booked for V-Day with a later dinner with her, which is the real reason he didn't eat much at our dinner and sought an excuse to get out of dessert and later activities. Honestly, I could have been really hurt and angry, but in the moment just felt sorry for him for being so immature he had to act this way. There is really nothing that turns me off and makes me lose feelings more quickly than a grown man acting completely selfish. So I just told him best of luck and I hope he figures out his life. I don't expect we will have future contact. Finally, to address one point from the prior comments. I know a lot of folks said I shouldn't have gotten him such an expensive gift after dating for only 7 months. The thing is, I've usually dated men who are a bit older, not inappropriately so, maybe 5 to 7 years older, and in higher earning professions like law or finance, so I am more used to giving and receiving pretty expensive gifts. And figured here, even though he was a student, I still wanted to be as generous as I could reasonably afford to be. But going forward, I'll be more careful and probably wait until dating at least a year to give gifts that cost more than a couple of $100s. So all in all, a bit of an expensive and hurtful lesson, but it certainly could have been worse. Looking forward to a brief break from the dating scene and hopefully dating more mature people. So the dude knew he was going to be breaking up with OP, still accepted the watch, then went on a second date a bit later on. This guy is dragging petty Mark out of me and just saying, I think his other partner should know about him. Can you picture that scene where, he's come back to collect his things and she says, well, can I have that gift back that I gave you? He's like, nope, I don't think so. That's a gift. Absolutely cheeky bastard. But like OP said, it's an expensive lesson, but it's probably good that you're not with this guy anymore. even though it was an expensive lesson. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from a throwaway account who says, am I the arsehole for cancelling the plans for Thanksgiving after my parents called my brother's baby their first grandchild? I, female 32, have been with my wife Ava, female 34, for 8 years now, but we've been married for 5. She was a single mom of 3 kids when we started dating. She had 2 daughters, now 10 and 12, and a son, now 16. I've watched these kids grow up. I've read them bedtime stories, done bath time, the first day of schools, PTA meetings, all of it. I very much consider them to be my kids, and they've been calling me mum for almost 6 years now. My brother Ivan, 28 male, just had a baby girl with his fiancée Sarah, 27 female. I love my niece and my kids adore their cousin. My kids have been the only grandchildren on my side of the family since Ava and I got together. There's never been a moment where the kids and my wife were treated like they didn't belong. My brother is their uncle. My mum and dad are their nana and pop. The kids see my family as their family, and I always thought that my family felt the same way about them. The kids and I were over at my brother's house just hanging out, and my parents ended up dropping by with gifts for my niece. Ivan laughed when he saw the toys and told our mum and dad that they were going to end up spoiling her rotten. My mum said, since my niece is their first grandchild, of course they have to spoil her. My kids were sitting in the living room with all of us, and my youngest daughter looked hurt when she realized what my mother said. My son and my 12-year-old didn't fully react to it, but I could tell it bothered the both of them too. Sarah spoke up and said, oh, you mean first grandbaby, not first grandchild. My dad shook his head and replied that my niece was their first grandchild. I didn't want my kids to keep sitting there and listening to that, so I handed my son my keys and told him to wait in the car with his sisters. When they were gone, I asked my parents why the hell they'd say that my kids weren't their grandchildren, and my mum said they couldn't be their grandchildren because they weren't really my children. My wife and I were going to be hosting Thanksgiving at our house this year, but I told my parents that if they didn't view my kids as their family, then they could just host a meal at their own house with their real family while I spent the holiday with mine. I left before they could say anything else to me. My wife and I have reiterated to the children that they will always be my kids and I will always be their other mum, regardless of our DNA. My brother is pissed at me now because he thinks I reacted too harshly and that I should try to see where my parents are coming from. My mum texts saying that she and my dad love the kids, but they still aren't their grandchildren, and she hopes that we can come to understand that because she doesn't want to ruin my niece's first Thanksgiving. I haven't replied back. I meant what I said, but I'm worried that maybe I'm reacting too harshly. ETA info. I adopted all 3 of the kids about 4 years ago. They aren't just my parents' step-grandchildren. Even if I hadn't legally adopted them, they'd still be my kids in my eyes. And we're going to start off with Dart, who says, not the arsehole. Sister-in-law Sarah is a rock star. She totally tried to save that fumble. Your parents should have picked up on that and caught that pass and saved the situation. Instead, they doubled down and argued the point. That's extremely unfortunate, and I'm sorry. AZJ Hawk says, not the arsehole. That was a really shitty thing of your parents to think, let alone say in front of your kids. You're completely justified in your reaction. If it were me, I don't know if this is something that could be fixed with a simple apology. OP responds saying, the worst part of it is for me is that they said it in front of them. I'd still be upset knowing they thought it, but the look on my youngest daughter's face when she heard my mother say that just broke my heart. I tend to go mama bear whenever I think someone has stepped out of line with the kids, so I was worried that maybe I was doing too much in my reaction. My brother still feels like I should talk it out with them, but I don't know that I can forgive it honestly. Should be right and says, damn, Sarah even gave them an out with the, oh you mean grandbaby comment, which is a slip of the tongue I can see people saying unintentionally, but they doubled down twice. Not the arsehole. Deep Statement says, not going to be popular, but no one's an arsehole here. You have every right to take those kids as your own and view them as such, but you shouldn't expect your whole family to have the same opinion and desires as you. I completely respect your stance. It's great you feel that way, but that doesn't mean your parents have to view the children the same way. An Accomplished Studio says, you're the arsehole. It is their first biological grandchild. While we all want acceptance and unconditional love, these are the things that tend to go with biology. Most people hope for biological children and grandchildren of their own. You're upset because the children you chose were treated well before their biological grandchild birth and were treated well after. It makes you the arsehole. Were they blunt when reminding you and your partner about biology? Yes, but it was honest. You cancel him because suddenly you feel like they think less of your children makes you the arsehole. Because you haven't given any evidence of them mistreating your kids. The arsehole for trying to make a celebration about you and your kids. And now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's have another story. And our next story comes from Fail, who says, would I be the arsehole if I was always honest about Santa, Tooth Fairy, etc. not being real? My boyfriend, 24 male, and I, 29 female, recently welcomed our firstborn into this world. It will be a few years before they're even old enough to understand, but the discussion has already come up. I've always imagined raising our kids and being honest with them about the fact that these holiday personalities aren't real. I'll still talk about them and celebrate like I always have, but just never going out of my way to sell the idea that they actually exist. My boyfriend doesn't think the same way. He says it would ruin the magic of being young and it's just something all the kids should experience. That it's harmless fun and I should play into it for their sake. My boyfriend is religious and I am not. He plans to raise our children teaching them his religion and I have no issues with this. I told him if our children ever ask me my opinion, I will be honest, but at the end of the day, it's their decision. I feel like this is similar, but the main difference is he's asking me to go along with the whole Santa is real narrative. I don't know if there is a God. I do know there isn't a Santa. I just don't feel comfortable lying to my kids about something so silly. So, would I be the arsehole if I never played into it against my boyfriend's wishes? And there is like a little update clarification after the comments, but how do you know Santa's not real? He might be out there somewhere. And Apprehensive says the same. You don't know if Santa is real or the Tooth Fairy. If you're going to go along with a God story, why not the other stories? At the end of the day, these stories make your child happy. It's the innocence of children. St. Nicholas was a real person and it makes kids so excited and happy. Don't take it away from them. Don't lie if they ask you when they are older, but let them believe when they are young. Iron Butterfly says not the arsehole. My parents told me the truth, but when I started kindergarten, she told me to never tell another kid or their parents wouldn't let us be friends. I actually felt smarter than the rest of the kids. I knew an adult secret. And one more from Technically Artist who says, I would say not the arsehole. I believe in God and I don't believe in Santa or even the Dutch holiday people they have created there in the Netherlands. I am a Dutch living in the USA and I've seen the response of being an older sibling by 10 years, what it does when a child finds out that there is no Santa or Tooth Fairy and all this other stuff that aren't real. My brothers are autistic, but I still took this to heart. So when my oldest son was born and became older to understand Santa, etc., I talked to his dad and we had a heart-to-heart talk and we decided to be honest with him. Yet we also told him not to tell other children what we had told him, that their mamas and papas would tell them when they would be ready for that. And so he never told his friends at school. He would participate in school activities that involved a Santa, but he knew the man wasn't Santa. I did the same thing with my youngest, who was autistic, being honest with him, and it worked well for us. He still had his childhood and the moments to enjoy with the other kids, but both of them knew what the deal was, so to speak, and it worked for us. So OP says, edit for clarification purposes. First, a thank you to everyone who shared their opinions. You give me a lot to think about and I will definitely be on the same page as my boyfriend before the time actually comes. Us not being on the same page would be the real arsehole move. To clear up a few things, I grew up being told Santa was real. I probably believed in a time before I can recall memories, but pretty much since I can remember, I always questioned Santa and the Tooth Fairy especially. My parents were very adamant that they were real, so I would force myself to stay awake and see the truth for myself. When I would continue to ask if they were real, they continued telling me that they most definitely were, or how else would these things have happened? It was very frustrating for me. They finally broke the news to me when I was around 5 years old and was having reoccurring nightmares about a bad Santa who would come and take all of our presents instead of leaving them. I blamed the story of the Grinch for these weird dreams, lol. Love that movie. I essentially saw him as a boogeyman who wanted to break into our home and ruin it. I have a brother who is 5 years younger than me and I'm pretty sure I ruined all these things for him right away. I've texted him since this thread and he's assured me I did not ruin his life or childhood innocence, lol. After reading comments with my boyfriend, he pointed out not everyone commenting understands I'm on the spectrum, and it can be difficult for me to not try and always see the logical side of things. He does not think this makes me a bad parent. I've always planned on telling children the story of St. Nicholas and enjoying all the holiday traditions. At this point, I'm leaning towards telling them the stories, and whenever they question their reality, I will ask them what they believe and share their opinion. I just do not want to do what my parents did, keep up the act after my children have realized there is in fact not a man or fairy coming to leave these gifts. For the few Redditors who said I shouldn't have kids, do you think the stork takes returns? /sarcasm. Much love to everyone for their helpful insight. Now, what do you guys make of this one? Do you think OP would be the arsehole if they was honest about Santa and the Tooth Fairy not being real? Or what would you tell your kids? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, support and time always means the absolute world to me, so thank you so much for being involved as always, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Yeah, man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in despair, crime everywhere. You're selling false hope cause you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. Nah, you just don't